everyone out there, and welcome to another episode of the Scoliosis Warrior podcast. And my apologies, it's been quite a while since I have put out an episode. I've been pretty busy back in college now, full time, doing outdoor activity instruction, so teaching people how to walk in the mountains safely and kayak and rock climb as well. So tis been full on, and I've had to put some of me stuff on the back burner, some of my podcasting and other commitments. But I was absolutely delighted to be able to fit in this episode today with Erin. Erin has been doing fantastic work on Spiral Spine over in Nashville, Tennessee, and she has a new studio opening up soon. So we had another fabulous conversation today, debating about the words disability and deformity within the context of scoliosis, and also talking about clothing choices, why we wear what we wear, amongst loads of other really interesting topics. It's always such a pleasure to talk to Erin. I just love this woman, and I actually can't wait to meet her in person someday very soon. So anyways, guys, hope you enjoy this episode as much as I enjoyed talking to Erin. And if you do like it, subscribe to the podcast and send me a little message on Instagram to let me know what you think. All right, guys, take care. Enjoy the episode.
I love it.
How's life?
Man, life's busy. Life is crazy busy for me. I bought a studio. So I bought an actual building for my studio to move into. So that's under construction right now.
Oh my gosh. Congratulations.
It's so much. Thank you. Yeah. So we're going from a 1,400 square foot studio to a 2,300 square foot studio. So I can now offer people with Scoli a place to come for retreats. And so all really good stuff. We're just growing so fast here. I've got 11 teachers, and most of our books are totally full. There's just a lot of Scoli beauties out there that need to get loved on. So
that's amazing, yeah. Erin. Wow. That's absolutely incredible.
Juggling that between my normal clients and being a mom and a wife. And I had 7 boys sleep over at my house last night, and soccer games, and it's just busy right now. What about you? You have a million things going on too that are changed since I last spoke to you.
Yeah. So since the last time we spoke, I'm back in college full time now. I'm training to become an outdoor activity instructor. So leading people up the mountains, teaching people how to rock climb and kayak as well. So and skills that are all totally new to me. Like obviously I know how to like be in the mountains and stuff, but all the kind of like navigational aspects of it are new to me. Kayaking is completely new to me. Rock climbing is new to me. And yeah, it's been a big learning curve, because you're like, especially with kayaking, like you're using muscles that I never even knew existed, like, and all the rotation in it. My God, my back does not like the rotation. It's very hard on it.
Talk to me about that. So when you told me that you were starting to do this like a month ago, I was so inspired, and I wanted to talk about this with everyone on the podcast, so that A, why did you decide to do this? B, how is your body doing with all this? Because you had a fusion years ago, it was taken out. I mean, like, it's so much. Talk to us. What's going on with all this?
Well, I suppose I've always loved being in the outdoors. I've always had kind of a natural affinity with it. And where I live here in Kerry, it is like an outdoor adventure capital. And there's a lot of work in the summertime for people who are qualified instructors. So I always kind of thought, like, personal training, it tends to be very busy in the in the winter time, when people are indoors more in the gyms. But then I found it was kind of slowing down a bit in the summertime. So I was trying to kind of think to myself, how can I find a job that I really love doing, but it also give me like consistent work through the summer as well? So I kind of thought, like, outdoor activity instructor in the summer, personal training in the winter, and then I have work all the year round. And it's two things that I really enjoy. So I suppose that was my reason behind starting the course. So I have like a, continuous employment all year round. But yeah, it's definitely like the mountain climbing is fine. The rock climbing was fine. Like, I mean, your forearms do get a bit sore with it at the start and stuff. But it was actually like it was the kayaking that really was very, very hard because like you think like with the motion of kayaking, like shoulders, you're kind of going from side to side. But actually, it's all your core and it's all twisting from side to side. It's all rotation. And as someone with like a few spine from T3 down to L4, my spine just doesn't rotate. Um, so it has been a challenge. I'll be honest with you, because I feel like other people in my class, they're just a lot quicker than me, and I use my shoulders and my hips a lot doing it because I'm making up for that lack of rotation that I have in the trunk. And I did actually end up pulling a muscle in my rib cage. I think just the shock of it on my body. Yeah, so I'm kind of dealing with a bit of a rib cage muscular injury at the moment. But in saying all that, I think I'll get there with it. I think as most people who have scoliosis or a fusion, or as you know, like your body moves a bit differently to other people, and it's just about finding like a different way of doing it than other people do it. And I think that will come with time. So I'm not kind of put off by it. I just see it as kind of a new challenge that I have to figure out my own way of maneuvering the kayak, if you get what I
Mm-hmm.
mean.
I totally love it. So my mind went into a few different places when you originally told me that you were doing this new adventure. And it totally went down this like analytical realm of like, oh, exactly what vertebra is moving, what muscles have to work, where can she rotate, where can she not? So a few questions. You had all your hardware taken out from T3 to L4.
Yes.
There technically is no metal left in you, but have all of your vertebra ossified. So you're fused, but there's no metal anymore. Or is there movement? Because this is totally going to sound crass, and I'm sorry, but oftentimes when they do surgery, they will shake bone kind of in the surgical spots, bone that's not yours, and put it in there, or they will harvest bone from like the top of your hip, the top of your ilium, or from another spot and bring it and put it on top of the fusion to make sure that the bones ossify, even if the metal gets taken out. So I didn't know if that was the case for you, or if the metal was taken out and there is movement now back in your back. Do you know that?
I don't believe that there is any bone taken from anywhere else. Back when I had the fusion done, I think I do have a little bit of movement in my trunk now, probably more than someone who still has metal in there.
Yep.
But it is limited at the same time. Like I still do feel like stiff and lack of rotation in my trunk, but I wouldn't say I'd be like as limited as someone who still has the hardware in there.
So possibly a little bit of movement has come back in a few of the joints, maybe? Small
Yeah.
movements?
Yeah, like not a huge amount of rotation, but like
Mm-hmm.
I can rotate a little bit in my trunk, but not like not a huge amount. It just feels very like because when you're kayaking as well, like you have all this equipment on you, like you have like a wetsuit, and then you're sitting in this upright position and you have like a buoyancy aid on and you have a helmet. So you're really like compressed in your trunk, and it's really hard to move, especially when you have like already like a compressed trunk from the scoliosis. It just feels like my ribs are kind of like sitting in my hips almost, and it's like really yeah, that part as well is making it hard to rotate as well. Kind of sounded like a bag of complaints, haven't I?
No, yeah. No, I love it. And I love it that you're like, this isn't going to hold me down. I'm going to go forward. We just got to go forward wisely. So, I have a client right now that had to get an emergency fusion in S1, L5, L4. So bunch of stuff happened, lots of neurological stuff happened. She had to just, within a 2-week time period, get a fusion. Rest of her scoli wasn't fused. That was a year and a half ago. And now she's dealing with neural stuff. I think it's from L3, which is the vertebra right above it, from this horrible sounding diagnosis called adjacent segmental disease, which is, I know, it's like the most horrible, colorful name that someone could ever give someone in this situation.
Nasty.
Yeah, totally. But pretty much it's, so you have a fusion and it's the vertebra either above it or below it that has to become hypermobile because the vertebrae that are fused can't move at all. And so that disc above and below just gets abused and ends up like herniating, causing neurological issues. And sometimes the fusion has to get extended. So anyways, I was thinking about in your case, you are fused all the way down to L4. A lot of the times people surgeons who do these, they're like, okay, I don't want to fuse into the sacrum for someone who has a full spinal fusion because you have zero movement. So they leave literally one vertebra free. You have a disc above the vertebra, you have a disc below the vertebra, and then it's your pelvis and your legs. So that one vertebra and those two discs get beaten alive. And so that's what I was thinking in your back. And I was like, okay. So why I was asking if you have any movement left, because you will be making all the movement happen between L4 and L5 and between L5 and S1, unless you get super creative with doing over exaggerated shoulder movement, like scapular movement, and getting really, really mobile in your hips at the same time, making your femur heads do a lot of the movement so that it's not a stable pelvis and all the movement's happening at L5. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, totally. Like, because that's what I found with it is that you have to become a bit more twisty in your hips. And actually, the kayak does allow for that because when you're like sitting in the kayak, it's like you're kind of sitting your legs in like a butterfly position. So like it's kind of like your heels are outwards here and you're kind of like sitting. I'll move back so you can see. Well, you're kind of sitting like this in the kayak almost, if you get me.
Yep, like a diamond like a long diamond with your legs.
Exactly.
Yep.
And it's like your thighs and your knees are kind of gripping like the side of the kayak. So with that, if you are mobile in your hips, you can use the power in there to kind of twist from side to side. So I've been trying to do that a bit more than the rotation in the trunk.
I love it.
Because when I tried to do that, I ended up pulling a muscle.
Yeah.
In my rib cage.
Yeah. I was so inspired that you were like, yeah, why would I not go and do this as a job? And I was like, you're amazing, Eva. and at the same time, I was like, okay, how can she do this wisely without having to retire from this new job in 2 years? But I think for a lot of people that have fusions, and my studio is filled with people that have fusions, it doesn't mean you can't do anything. It means let's think through this. Let's get creative. Let's make sure we have a super strong core. And everything that's not fused is going to be extremely mobile and extremely strong and stable to support everything.
100%, Erin. That's like I think that's the key with fusion is you just have to make the non-fused areas extremely resilient so that like because you hear that so often, this like risk of like, herniation and degeneration to like the vertebrae above and below. Like that's,
Mhm.
you probably hear about that a lot. It's a pretty
Yep.
common thing with a fusion, especially after a few years of wear and tear. So, and something I suppose people don't think about when they get the fusion done, they don't think about that after effect of, okay, what's going to happen now after. Like you can't just kind of sit on your laurels and expect that life is going to be easy and you won't have to take care of your back now. There's so much you have to do afterwards to make sure those areas are protected and strong.
I can't tell you how many people come to my studio and they're like, they got a fusion and they're like, I used to have scoliosis. I was like, oh.
You still do.
I know. I was like, oh, baby. I'm like, just because you had a fusion does not take scoliosis out of your body. I'm not saying a fusion is not necessarily, lots of negatives in this sentence. I'm not saying a fusion is not necessarily the right choice. What I am saying is you need to understand once you have scoli in your body, it's always there. It can change depending on surgeries and exercise and massage and all that other stuff. But it doesn't leave it. Like if you go into Facebook groups, like if you go in and you look at a lot of fusion Facebook groups, there is a lot of jargon that goes on about, you know, my scoliosis has been cured because I had a fusion. Like, wow, that's a very interesting choice of a word. Cured. I was
But
like, okay.
it's such a misconception, but it's such a like common misconception as well.
I know. And my teachers and I, we're like, when this conversation starts in a private lesson, I mean, all of us has this like sinking dread in our stomachs. And we're like, oh my gosh, we have to be the ones to tell them that they haven't been quote unquote cured from this. And I have and have to deal with this now. And I'm like, why are we the ones that have to say this? But
And
yeah,
it's such a like hard conversation to have with someone as well, because it's like you're telling someone you're breaking up with them. It's that same kind of like sinking feeling of like, oh, do I have to be this person to give this terrible news?
yeah. I'm like, oh, here's another meltdown that's happening at Spiral Spine today. Okay. And it's all good. It's all good. But it's so much. Okay, I had another thought about your kayaking thing. So, and you had a pulled muscle. So oftentimes one of the downsides of a fusion, a non-mobile fusion, because you can have ASC, anterior scoliosis correction, or VBT, vertebral body tethering, which is a mobile fusion, which
Yeah.
wasn't around in your day and age. And it is,
No.
there are, and this is not as common. There more doctors still do posterior spinal fusions than do a mobile surgery. But we have more and more people that are learning about this and flying to get this done around the world. Anyways, they are going to be in another group. That's not what I'm talking about right here. If you have a fusion where rod and metal is involved without a tether of some kind, the muscles everywhere in your trunk associated with the vertebra that have been fused, so for you, it'd be T3 to L4. So all the muscles along the spine, all the ribs associated with it, all the organs associated with it in the front, where nothing moves anymore, in the front, in the back, all of that stuff is going to be much uneditedly much less mobile. But to the point, like when we breathe, when we side bend, when we rotate and kayak, everything just gets normally moved. When I bend down and I'm picking up a nephew of mine and I'm pulling up, that is just naturally getting movement. When I do short spine, when I do rollover, any of those things in Pilates world naturally gets movement. When someone who has a posterior spinal fusion, that movement is omitted. Never be able to move that again. It just is. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's good. A medical choice was made and now it can't move again. I think an extremely important thing to do for people that have had spinal fusions is to get either with balls of different kinds and shapes and sizes to move the tissue, or to get massages. I don't care if it's a boyfriend or a husband or a massage therapist, to get hands on the tissue to move the intercostals in between the ribs, to move all the muscles in the rib cage, front, back, side, diaphragm, all this stuff, to have that tissue move, because it never gets moved. And I was wondering when you told me that you got injured a while back, I was like, I wonder if it's associated with a muscle that just hasn't moved in what, 5, 10 years.
It's
And you're
funny you
doing
say
these
that
movements.
actually, Erin. Yeah, because my partner is a physiotherapist, and he started doing all that work that you've mentioned there, like kind of like digging deep into the psoas and kind of doing this kind of almost like palpitation of my rib cage and kind of like getting into that tissue. Like I tend to be very tight in my lats on the left side. Like that's where all my issues are. Is that the concave left
Yes.
side. It's like I found I never noticed it before, but I've just found recently that I really can't breathe that effectively into that side, and I've only noticed it now that I've had this pulled muscle in there. Is like when I go for a run, it's like I can't get breath into that side.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like affecting my breathing as I'm running, and then I get really out of breath. But like I never really noticed it that bad before. I think it's just now that the muscle is kind of strained in there that I can really, really feel it. So I've had to do a lot of work on kind of like pumping up, I suppose, the concave muscle in there because it's so it is so restricted, and
Yep.
but the manual therapy on it really does help, like putting the ball in there front side back really does help, and the lateral hips as well, that really does help because they get so tight. The like what the TFL, like IT
Yes.
band, that area like is so constricted, like sometimes you feel like you're moving like a marshmallow or something.
A marionette puppet. You're like, ah. Um, I'm so glad that your man is doing all that in your rib cage. Um, I breath work is so important for people that have scoliosis, but I think people that are fused, I do not think that breath work has been investigated enough. I really do think that it would be so beneficial for people that have scoliosis and specifically fusion to have, I hesitate to use the word aggressive, but a really aggressive form of breath work for them to practice. And there's so many different forms of breath work, whether it's Pilates, whether it's weightlifting, whether it's yoga, so many different forms of breath work. But whether it's what is it, deep sea, what is the form of what is the form that they have where it's like they go down under the sea as far as they can and they like hold their breath for like 6 minutes. I don't even, it's like deep sea diving, but they do it with
Oh,
no oxygen.
diving. Yeah, deep sea diving. Yeah.
Yeah. And these people have learned to expand their rib cages and get into every little lobe inside of their lung and move their diaphragm so aggressively to hold as much air as they can. Intercostals are moving. Anyways, all the things that my brain contemplates on. But I really do think that I would encourage you to mess around with this and see if you can't, you and your man can't come up with some different forms of breath work that maybe you could share with people that have fusions. I don't have a fusion. I mean, I'm sure I could come up with this stuff, but the reality is I don't know exactly what it feels like to have a fusion because I've never had one. And I can move. I can side bend if I want to open up the concave side of my curve. I can bend. I can do gyrotonic to make all this movement happen. But I think you would bless a lot of people that have fusions as a way by doing internal breath work in their lungs and using their diaphragm, pumping that down and up to get movement to happen inside of their rib cage.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because I don't know if you experience this without fusion, but like I find the problem with the breath, trying to pump it into the concave side is my like instead of me pumping it into the back of my rib cage, it'll start to flare at the front. and it's really hard to
Totally.
like direct the breath into the tissue where it needs to be because it's like it's really stubborn and it's like it doesn't want to open in that area. So I have to do like a lot of manual therapy with the ball or getting my partner to like get his fingers in there. It's
Yes.
lovely because the muscles spasm really easy. So you have to kind of do that first to get a bit of blood flow and then get the breath in there. But it's oh my God, it's so stubborn. It's so
Yeah.
constricted. Like
Yeah. The tissue has to move. What I have found, the two, really one, but two best forms that I have found to get that is me moving my rib cage. And I'll do it in like doing gyrotonic, which are handle units. I can do all this handle unit stuff, all this arm weighted work that will pull on my rib cage and I can rotate. Obviously, this is not going to be a great choice for someone that's fused. But recently, so I was a professional dancer for years. I haven't been for almost 20 years. But about 2 months ago, I went into a ballet studio for the first time in 15 years. And I just fell back in love, and my body loved it because I was in a studio taking a class for an hour and 30 minutes. And I mobilized my rib cage doing all these motions that I don't normally do. Just like when you kayak, you're like, oh, and I know you're so strong and so mobile, but you do a new motion repetitively over a period of time, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I thought I was taking really good care of my body, and you pull a muscle. You're like, oh, whoa.
it's weird. Yeah, it's so weird, Erin, because I've never really had any injuries like to my back before, but getting that it was really like it started off as just kind of like, oh, it's a bit sore, and then it started to really flare up to the point where like I actually couldn't get off the floor. It was like if I kind of moved my body in a certain way, it was like there was like an electric shock sent up my back. And it was really scary because do you know when people like so many people with scoliosis talk about like this back pain that they experience, and I'd be like, yeah, but really I know concept of it because it's never like happened before. So when this happened, like it made me really empathize with people and the pain that they go through because like back pain, whatever form it comes in, like it is debilitating and it can be really severe for some people, and it's tough for people when it's chronic as well.
Yep. And I think with that, I mean, my studio is full of people that with scoliosis of all fashions, forms, and sizes, fusions, non, whatever, little kids, 80-year-olds, everything in between. And so I see it all. And having living with it myself, one of the conclusions that I've come to is, and we'll see if I still have this answer when I'm 80 years old, but is you just have to fall in love with movement, and you have to fall in love with being excited about trying different movement often. If you feel yourself non-motivated to do something, I'm like, great, go learn something new. Go learn Tai Chi. Go learn to be a kayak instructor. Learn to do Pilates. Go take a ballet class. Go rollerblade and go swimming. And it's just, Pilates is not bad. Weightlifting is not bad. But if that's all that we ever do, our body gets very used to doing that one thing. And then we go and we ride a camel in the Egyptian desert. We, decide that we want to do a triathlon and we're swimming a few miles, training that. All of a sudden, oh my goodness, I had no idea. I'm like, I know. So instead of feeling like we are punished by having this, I'm like, okay, let's get a new mindset. Let's keep encouraging ourselves to fall in love with movement. Don't care what it is. Don't care what it is. Let's figure it out and let's just keep falling in love with it.
And tell me about your ballet class. So you obviously must have done a lot of that back when you were a professional dancer. How's it like,
Yeah.
this was your first time kind of doing it in about 20 years, was it?
Yeah. So I was in a pre-professional ballet school up until I went away to college. So I had one of the main instructors had been a principal with the American Ballet Theater with ABT. Another one had been a principal with the Bolshoi in Russia. So I mean, it was like a super hardcore, strict ballet school. Like my instructors were so disappointed in me when I told them I wasn't going to be with a ballet company, and they were like, "What do you mean you're going to go to business school?" I mean, it was like they disowned me as their child. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have to move on with life right now." But yeah, it was a huge situation. So yes, so that was one of my first loves, and then I went on to Broadway and start doing Radio City Rockette stuff, and that was fun and everything. But yeah, I found I needed motivation to just keep moving again. And with buying a building and my crazy kids, middle school, teenage world, and all this stuff, I found myself not moving very much. It was like a burden for me. So I needed to get back into it. And I was like, okay, we're going to do this again. And it's just like riding a bike. It was great. I totally loved it. But doing all the turns, very fast turns, doing all the huge port de bras in the body, I realized really quickly that things in my rib cage were super, super tight. I couldn't turn as quickly as I did before. Have great core balance. I could still stand. Everything was totally fine. But and I could balance there, but just the mobility was there. So it was a good wake up call to me. And my bunions totally still kill me. So it was a good reminder that I will not be a professional ballet dancer. I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot I haven't had bunion pain in like 20 years. And then I go back into a Pilates studio or a dance studio and my bunions start killing me again. But it was still great. It was still great. So on another note, I have 2 words I'm going to say to you, and I want you to tell me what your thoughts are on these 2 words, because these 2 words are super, super hot words in the scoliosis world.
Okay,
I've written blog posts on them. I've written chapters on them in my latest book, I Have Scoliosis, Now What? And there are some very, very divided answers. I've had to delete some comments about this on my blog post because they were so vulgar towards me. So, and I want to have a discussion about this because this is going to affect a lot of people that have scoliosis. Here are the 2 words: deformity and disability. What are your thoughts on those 2 words in relation to yourself and in relation to scoliosis?
Oh, I hate them, to be honest. You know,
Do you think you are disabled and deformed?
no. Oh my God, for someone to like think that way about themselves is absolutely awful. Like I just think it's so ridiculous that these are actually like medical terms. And like, you go into like a consultant's office and they could they could refer to your back as being deformed. Like that's absolutely horrific. Like, and I actually don't think it's true either, because like what defines like a deformity? Like, if someone's spine is a bit curved, that doesn't mean they're deformed. It just means that their spine is shaped a little bit differently. And as for disability, I think that, yeah, maybe scoliosis can, limit you from doing certain things, but it doesn't mean that you're disabled. Maybe some people have it more severe than others, but I really think these labels need to be taken away, because they really they don't do anything for people's self-esteem. I think they actually make the term scoliosis seem like this horrible like death sentence. And when you perceive something that way, it's going to make your condition so much worse than it needs to be. Whereas if you saw it in a more like positive light, well, then maybe you would want to do things to help yourself and to actually make your condition do positive things to make your condition better. What about you? What are your thoughts on it?
I'm just sitting here. I know everyone who's listened to this podcast, you can't see me just like smiling and nodding as Eva's like expounding upon my exact thoughts. But that's why I didn't even preface. I was like, I'm gonna put this word towards Eva. And so I couldn't agree with you more. How I had a beautiful college student come into the studio about a month and a half ago. And she and I have literally the exact same scoliosis. She might have like a few more degrees than I do, literally almost the exact same double curve at the exact same apex at the vertebra. And she was like, my deformity is just horrible. And
Oh my God.
I'm just disabled.
Are you
And I was
joking? What?
no. And I was like, okay, why don't you tell me more? And this is not my first rodeo with someone thinking this way about themselves. And it usually stems from a doctor telling them that they're deformed, or not receiving great guidance from their Scoli doctor to say, hey, yes, I hear you that you're in pain. Okay. Instead of me giving opioids to you for pain, why don't you go and try massage, movement, and give people tools to help them get out of pain? Eva, you're fused, or we're fused. You can't go get fused to get you out of pain. Like that's not going to help. It's in your torso is where this injury happened. So a lot of the times we get to a medical standpoint and it's like, they can't help you anymore. They literally don't have the tools to help you. You have to go to somebody else. But if the only person that you go see is a doctor an orthopedic surgeon that specializes in spinal fusions, and that's their tool is surgery. They don't have the tool to help you then get out of that pain. So you live in chronic pain. So you're going to think, yes, I am disabled. I can't walk down the street. When if you went to a great physiotherapist, you went to a great Pilates instructor, you went to someone else who specialized in movement, they could get you out of pain. So I said to this girl at the end of this lesson, going back to the college student who came in for the lesson, I said, just at the end of the lesson, I didn't want to hammer it home during the lesson because I needed to move her and go through homework exercises and stuff and prove to her that she was just fine. I said, okay, so I have a question for you. I don't know how, when we both have the exact same curvatures, can you tell me how it is that you are deformed and disabled, but I am not deformed and I am not disabled? Can you tell me why that is? And it was this concept, it like blew her mind. And I was like, I don't need an answer today. I just want you to go home and think about that. It's just, do you have the tools to go forward? Do you have the emotional tools? Do you have the physical tools to go forward? So, and it's hard when you go to a doctor's office and on the door that you go into says Spinal Deformity Center.
Yeah. Or like did you know like your scoliosis is a disease? Have you heard that?
Totally. That's amazing.
What the heck? It's a horrible way to think about it.
Wow. It's like I'm a leper. No one can come around me because they're going to catch it.
I have scoliosis. Oh.
Totally. So I would just encourage everyone, Eva did not know I was going to ask her that question. So that's why I wanted everyone to hear Eva's initial response to it. And I would encourage all of you guys, if you are in pain, emotionally or physically, go get help.
Yeah, and also like I can understand, Erin, why you do not like using the word rib hump because all these words are really powerful in people's perception of themselves. And I think it is so important when you are dealing with a spinal condition like scoliosis to use uplifting, positive wording towards the condition. I was very lucky when I was going through treatment that my surgeon, my family, doctors, nurses, they never referred to scoliosis as a deformity, a disability, or a disease, or whatever you might want to call it. So I never thought of myself that way. My friends and my family treated me really normally. They didn't see me as like a disabled person, even if I did spend a bit of time in a wheelchair after the surgery and all this. But I was treated normally, just like everyone else. And I think that's actually really, really important for young people who are vulnerable and they take on what people say. I think it's so important to use positive terminology for scoliosis because it really does affect your mindset, and it can really take such a great toll on your mental health. Like, especially since scoliosis is not something that we can actually cure. It's something, as we know, you have for the rest of your life. So the way you talk to yourself about it and the way other people talk to you is it's just crucial. Like, it's everything.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. And because of that, I don't have the word scoliosis on the outside of my studio. It's Spiral Spine Pilates. When you come in, it is a Pilates studio. There are no mirrors on the walls. There's no graph paper where you stand in front of. There's no x-ray machine. I want people to come in and feel we're just taking care of our bodies. We're just learning to love Pilates. It's great. It's so much of a mental battle. And that's one of the things with buying this new location of mine. I've been working with a designer. So the inside is just gorgeous. Like it's not a medical studio. It's not a medical place. It's a treat to go there. It's a visual treat to go there. And even I had a workshop called Scoliosis Intensive, and I've rebranded it to be Scoliosis Retreat, so that it's 2 days where people we have 3 different tracks. The first one is new people we need to learn to analyze and understand our bodies, get on Pilates equipment for the first time, learn how to move, go home. And then you have exercises that you can do when you're at home. We have track 2. So many people that work with us, they just need to keep moving. Once a year, they can just come and work out. And then track 3 is teachers. We're movement practitioners that want to learn how to do this. But as I was just sitting with all this stuff, I'm like, man, I have to be so mindful of the words that we use here. It's a retreat. Who wouldn't want to go to a retreat instead of the punishment of having to go to this place to get worked on all the time because there's something wrong with me?
Yes, this treatment center for my scoliosis.
Exactly. There's no treatment center. But that's exactly right. No, that's the mindset of figuring out how to go forward. Deformity, disability, rib hump. I want these words to be erased from people's minds when they live with scoliosis. And it's fine. We're fine. You're fine. You're going to go up in the mountains, teach people how to kayak.
Love it, Erin. I'm really excited to come and visit you in person and see the new studio. When's it going to be up and
running? Move-in date is actually in 2 weeks.
Oh my
2
gosh!
Weeks.
Oh my
December
gosh!
8th, 2022. Yeah, it's pretty darn gorgeous. I'm excited. It's been a massive undertaking, but I feel very led down this path, and I just want freedom for people that have scoliosis. That's the best way for me to say it. We get this for the rest of our life, just like I get my bunions for the rest of my life. And I'm like, great, okay, It just is. We were not promised a perfect anything. It's okay. We're fine. So how do we just go forward? We live with it. One of my favorite clients is 80. She was born in Quebec, did not learn English till she was 13. She takes care of her 83-year-old husband, never been fused. She comes in for her Pilates lessons. She's just moving. My favorite clients are my 70 and 80-year-old clients. They're just fine. They are just fine. Do they have wear and tear? Yeah, just like every other 70 and 80-year-old people living all around the world. And they've got physical therapists and massage therapists and Pilates instructors, and they're just fine. They're my heroes. I'm like, we're just going to keep moving. We're just going to keep doing this. It's going to be fine. You're going to be fine. It's great. So, okay, I've got another question on this front. Clothing. On the topic of clothing. Do you choose clothing to hide your scoliosis? Or do you choose clothing because it feels like a good fit and doesn't pull on your body to make your scoliosis hurt more?
Yeah, really good question, Erin. Yeah, I don't think we've actually talked about clothing before. I personally, I don't mind showing off my scoliosis. Like I'd be fine with wearing clothes that are backless and stuff like that. My main thing is I don't like things that feel tight around my waist because I feel like it constricts my breathing and I feel like my digestion isn't good when I have really tight clothes on. So I prefer to wear things that have elasticated waists on them. I find it really hard to find jeans that fit properly that don't go up to my boobs because of my my very short torso.
That was so awesome.
So yeah, I live in I live in kind of elasticated wasteland. I don't like zips. I like loose fitting clothing that's comfortable. Comfort is my main thing, things that don't constrict, but also things that kind of flatter as well. You don't want to be just like wearing like baggy clothes and like kind of being shapeless, even though there's nothing wrong with that. But stuff I like Gymshark. They have like, leggings that make your butt look really great, but they're comfortable as well. um, a lot of like outdoor clothing brands like Rob and like the North Face and Columbia, they're all really like comfortable stuff. You can get like base layers that are cozy and yeah, but to answer your question, it's not about trying to hide the scoliosis. Like I'd be fine with showing it. It's more about just comfort and being able to breathe and not feeling constricted.
Yep.
What about you?
Yeah, I don't ever try to hide my scoliosis. My clothing choices never come from a place of shame. My clothing choices come from comfort, and the two main areas for me are my rib cage and my neck. So I can't wear halter tops. It just kills me. Anytime I have something pulling forward on my neck, oh my goodness, I will end up with back pain and neck pain in about 2 seconds. And then the second thing is wearing underwire bras. Man, it is so painful because yes, because of the rotation of your rib cage. So
can't do it.
Yeah, so yeah, I found like some like like t-shirt bras from Victoria's Secret that have no underwire on them, because like my front left rib cage, I will have just like red bruising if I wear an underwire bra. So I just have learned to find stuff that doesn't fit, but yeah, I have no shame in it. So before I've written 4 books on scoliosis. Before I started my first book, I bought every book that there was on the market about scoliosis because I just wanted to kind of get the vibe, what other people were writing about out there. And I cannot tell you how many books are written out there with a piece of the book with specific suggestions on clothing, specifically guiding people towards hiding their scoliosis. So these entire chapters are based on shame and encouraging shame while living with scoliosis.
It's
That was
so
appalled.
ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. I've even heard that as well about like I grow my hair really long so that I can hide my curve. I'm like, I have long hair, but like heck, I tie it up. Like I don't care if my curve is on show. Like what? Why would you try and hide it? It's you. It's a part of you.
Right. Exactly. So everyone who's listening, I just would encourage you to ask yourself, am I making clothing choices based on hiding my scoliosis or on comfort? And if it's hiding, the emotion most likely is shame. Feel like you are wrong, you are bad. And if that is the case, it is worthwhile digging a little bit deeper into that feeling. Like I have a whole chapter on emotions and shame and I have scoliosis. Now what? Or go and talking to a therapist about it. But it is, I have seen it more than once. I had a beautiful scoli person that I worked with about 6 months ago. And I worked with her on and off in person. She doesn't live here. She would come in and then virtually, and she shaved her head. And and finally, we had been working with each other a long time, and I finally felt like I could ask her why she chose to have her head shaved all the time. And she said, I shave my head because I want to be able to look at my back at all times. I don't want anything to get in the way, which is totally the opposite of like why, like she just wouldn't even let the idea of her scoliosis leave her mind. Like it was like this continual punishment that she needed to put upon herself. And I was like, it was amazing how much the emotions took over what she chose to do with her hair. And she would always walk around in like a bikini top or a sports bra. So she would ever presently be aware of how she looked.
As in like not as in she was like proud to show it off, as in like she was like trying to make herself feel bad, was it? Or
Yes, yes. It was it it was it was it was a hard thing for me to work through. And my suggestion to her at the end of the lesson was twofold. One was threefold. One was I want her to find before I say that, she always wanted exercises from me to fix her scoliosis, to cure her scoliosis.
oh god.
There was no peace about, like, it just is. It's okay. We can go on. Like you've got an amazing partner. I've got an awesome husband and 2 kids. Like, it's fine. Like, we're fine. My husband and your man, they're not with us because they have pity for us. They don't feel bad for us. And that's why they're with us, because we have scoliosis. It just is a part of us, and it just is, and it's totally fine. And I told her I want her to go find a new form of movement, or a form of movement that she just loves. And I want her to do it and fall in love with it, or fall back in love with it. And I want her to only do her scoliosis exercises once a day for 20, 30-ish minutes, if that. And I also told her that I want her to go out and be with people again. I want her to go to parties. I want her to go hang out with friends. And the third thing I told her was I want her to grow her hair out. Not to hide her scoliosis, but I want her to pick out her favorite haircut. And we're just going to like live our best life, whatever haircut it is.
Just like love herself.
Exactly. I saw her like 1 or 2 more times. One time, the next time, she was like wearing just like a baggy shirt, not to cover her scoli, but because she was just wearing a baggy shirt that day. And she was so happy. And I was like, what's going on? She's like, I started rock climbing again. Like, that's awesome.
Oh,
And I've got a
that's so
boyfriend.
good. Oh, that's so good, Erin.
And then I saw her one more time and she was just crazy happy. And I haven't seen her since. That's awesome. She's going to be just fine.
Erin,
So,
like that's like the most beautiful gift I think you can give to people is just for people to be kind of content with themselves and just kind of free from that like emotional, mental, physical toll that scoliosis takes and just like not even like think about it, like just like scoliosis is not a thing. Like for you to be able to give that to someone, I think is such a beautiful and such a life-changing gift.
and that's, well, thank you. Yeah. One of the things that my goal is with people, and it takes some sifting through with every single person, is okay, how can we take this ball and chain of scoliosis off your ankle? Sometimes it's learning about our scoliosis and getting stronger, getting more mobile. So then scoliosis just kind of falls away and it's not a big deal anymore because the pain's gone. Sometimes it's a self-esteem issue. Sometimes the list is so long on how it is we need to navigate forward, physical, emotional, whichever one it is. But sometimes it's wearing a brace. Sometimes it's not wearing a brace. Sometimes it's having surgery. Sometimes it's not having surgery. And every person is very different. But my goal is always, how do we take the ball and chain of having scoliosis off your ankle? Sometimes having like the prescribed Schroth exercises is a blessing to people and sets them free. Sometimes telling them to stop doing their Schroth exercises because they feel punished by being forced to do 45 minutes of exercises every single day is how you take the ball and chain off your ankle to be set free. And so I would just encourage everyone to just, how do you feel in a chain, a ball in a chain with your scoliosis? And if you do, is it because you don't have enough knowledge about your scoliosis on what exercises you should do? You have fear about the future of if you're going to need surgery, or you don't have a great therapist, you don't have a dream team, you don't have all these people to help you? Or is it because you feel enslaved to the prescribed exercises and therapies that you have? Like I have one Scully Beauty that's at the studio. I was actually working with her husband this last week, and we were chatting, and this particular Scully Beauty of mine, it was a ball and chain in the beginning with Schroth exercises and this soft brace that she wore, and we broke that chain. And I think she has enslaved herself again to coming to so many group classes and private classes at my studio. A private lesson with me every week, a private lesson with another instructor every week, and like 4 group classes. Like you can't, and like at least 1 massage every week from a great therapist, and structural integration work every other week, and this other therapist and this physical therapist. And now we've swung the pendulum the other way, and we're being enslaved, albeit, oh my goodness, all these people are amazing therapists and can help her. But that's not the issue. The issue is the like emotional entrapment, the emotional enslavement that she's put herself into. And I think the root is fear of scoliosis getting worse, fear of what will happen if I don't do these things, fear of XYZ. I was in a therapy appointment session for myself one day, and I'm Enneagram 6. My favorite emotion is fear, paranoia. Oh, I go there so fast. And we were talking about something, and this was years ago. She was like, okay, and then what happens? And then what happens? She was like, keep going down the train. Just keep going until there is no more. And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, keep going. And what happens next? And what happens next? And what happens next? To the point that my fear was based in, oh, well, and then I my back can't hold me up. She was like, and then what happens? Then I have to have surgery. And then what happens? And then I die on the table. And then what happens? My husband doesn't have a wife. And then what happens? My kids don't have a mom. And then like I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea all this stuff was in there. She did. And so I had to go to the end of the train to be like, yo, that's so much.
Wow.
That's so much to be like, oh my gosh, how many choices am I making for my own self? Seriously, of my fear of based on death. And my scoliosis is going to cause me death. And how many choices are people all around the world who live with scoliosis making based on fear? And if we go down the train, keep going down until it stops and can't go anymore. Or are we making all these choices in our daily life based on the fear of our back giving out and death? So that was a way heavy comment, but
no, but it's honestly, Erin, it's a very big concern. I know even myself personally, I've definitely had that fear even recently, like with having my rib cage injury, it kind of made me think like, oh God, like am I going to be crippled like by the time I'm 40? Like am I still going to be able to run? Like am I ever going to be able to lift weights again? And am I going to be hobbled over? Not being able to move? Like it's kind of when you're like feeling in a bit of a in a down place. Like when you're up, like you're not really thinking about these type of things because you're in like generally a positive mind state. But it's when you get down that these kind of irrational fears start to set in, and they can be a very real thing, like fear of the future and what your back is going to be like. It can be very gripping, and it takes a lot of work to kind of sift through it. Like, so fair play to you for doing that work with your therapist, because it's not comfortable work. It's not easy.
mm-hmm. And one of the things that I find myself, I was actually reading the massive Enneagram book that I have just the other night, because I could feel myself kind of going into that fear realm again. And luckily now I can catch it before I end up in like full-blown paranoia state. But I was reminding myself by reading this book again on what I can become and how, with my personality type, what I need to do to become more emotionally healthy. What do I need to do to be free of the fear and to be emotionally healthy? I have found I have to take care of myself emotionally. I have to do things that I enjoy and I love and that I laugh at, and I be around community. I love gardening. I love being outside in the sun. I love being at a beach. I love being in the water. I love rollerblading. And these are things that when I find myself continually playing the fear card and I start going down that hardcore train path of, like dying on the operating table or whatever, I'm like, oh man, baby, okay, we're going there. Let's go plant some tomatoes today. Let's go put our hands in some dirt.
Yeah, ground yourself again.
Exactly. What do you do to help you become a little bit more? What do you do when you are very emotionally healthy?
Similar to yourself, actually, Erin. I spend a lot of time outside hiking in the mountains. Like not necessarily like I don't really like intense exercise where I'm like gasping for air like that wouldn't be my cup of tea, but I just like long slow days like out on the mountains, just really being kind of present in the moment, like just enjoying the elements, enjoying a good day out, like getting a good sweat on, like being around friends, having the sun in your face, and like doing a few climbs of the mountain, and then coming down, and then at the end of the day, like kind of like putting your feet up and having a nice meal and feeling like really accomplished that got out and did your movement, and you got outside and got fresh air, and yeah, just so like really really simple stuff like that. But those are really, if I can reflect on the times where I feel like the most like me and the most happiest and the most content, it's just really simple things like being out in the mountains with friends, spending long days out, and just not really doing it for anything else other than the enjoyment and the fun of it. It's not about a competition. It's not about who's going fastest. It's just it's just really about that connection of yourself and the outdoors, and kind of just, I suppose, feeling connected to everything around you. I think that's what kind of takes you out of your head and kind of into into that kind of like presence, that place, that place that we all kind of, you just feel at home and you just feel yourself in. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. Where I can get outside of focusing on me, and I can focus on the greater picture and the glory that the Lord has created out there. And I'm just a little piece, and it's going to be okay. It puts everything into perspective, where my focus becomes less egocentric on myself.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's huge, actually. Yeah. Because we can get so consumed in ourselves and our bodies and like what's going to happen in that. But like if you kind of see yourself kind of as you said, as part of like the greater picture, and that we're only just a fragment of that, well, kind of that the insignificance is actually, I think it's actually really it's actually really relieving, and it can take a lot of pressure off yourself to have to be a certain way or to like look a certain way, or just like pressure about the future. It kind of takes that all off, and it's just like, ah, I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. I'm protected. I'm a part of something greater than myself, and I'm going to be okay.
Insignificance is freeing.
Totally. It is. It is. The feeling of being insignificant and part of the greater speck of humanity is just, it's so freeing. It's so liberating.
I love being in nature and taking a walk, working in my gardens, growing food, being at a beach, because you see how many things in nature are not perfectly symmetrical, and yet they're thriving just as much as something that is perfectly symmetrical. You see a tree that, for all intents and purposes, has scoliosis right next to a tree that is straight up and down, and they're both just fine. They're both housing birds and squirrels. They're both producing acorns. They're both producing leaves. They're both literally the same. And I'm just reminded by that. Oh, thank you. I needed that. It's going to be fine.
That's
Tomato
actually
plants that are,
really,
tomato plants that are perfect, and then tomato plants that are not. Guess what? They both feed my family. They both produce food. It's fine. It's fine.
I think that's actually a really good thing for people to look at maybe next time they're out on a walk, is there's wonky looking, nature around you, landscapes. Things in nature are not perfect, and yet they all thrive, whether they're straight or bent or curved, and they all thrive in their own little way. And if you can put that back on yourself, well, there's no reason why you can't thrive either.
Right. Right. I love it. I love chatting with you, Eva.
Uh,
All our conversations make me happy. And I hope that everyone that listens, y'all can just take a deep breath. It's going to be all right. Yes, you need movement practitioners. There's not a negotiation on that. Both Eva and I move all the time, and we know our bodies so well. So well. Actually, and I know she's a personal trainer, and you did some Pilates teacher training, and I'm a Pilates instructor and gyrotonic instructor and lots of other things. And I think a big piece of the journey for people that have scoliosis, some might argue with me, but that's okay. Learning the movements that your body loves. And the further you get down your journey, possibly even going through some form of training to be a personal trainer, to be a Pilates instructor. I had a beautiful schoolie client of mine. Money is not a problem for her or her husband, will never be a problem for them. And she told me last week that she is going to start the journey to become a Pilates instructor. She's really intense scoliosis, and she's found so much freedom from doing Pilates. Bought like an entire Pilates studio setup for her house. And she totally has money that she could do private lessons for the rest of her life and would have so much money left over. There's never going to be a problem. But she's like, I feel so good doing this. I want to learn it for myself. And I don't know. Eventually, I may want to teach a little bit so I can give back to other people. And I think that's a big piece for a lot of the instructors that I've seen gone through the Pilates teacher training at my studio with Balance Body is you learn what you need to do to take care of yourself, but then you go through the process and the hard emotional journey of going through training, learning what your body can and can't do and working through all that. And then eventually being able to help and hold the hand of people who are going through the same journey. And I think until you get to that side where you can help other people, like your journey there's more to your journey. Let's say that. There's more to your journey because you can't give what you don't have. So for those of you who are wondering what's the next step in your journey, I would encourage you say maybe it's to take some kind of a teacher training course.
Yeah, I would even say like I really got a lot of benefit from reading your book that was directed towards instructors.
Analyzing Scoliosis.
Analyzing Scoliosis, yeah. I'd really recommend that to anyone with scoliosis or family members or that who want to learn a bit more about their body, but also like you kind of worded in a way that it's not just scientific jargon that only instructors would understand, but it's kind of layman's language as well that everyone can understand. But I got a lot from that book as being a lay person myself at the time, and I think a lot of people could really benefit from that because it kind of shows you from an instructor to try and teach instructors, but in a way that's very simple to break down.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. That's kind of you. It's a journey. It's all a journey. And the goal is just how do we live this journey the best that we can? How do we cut that ball and chain off of us? It's going to be different for everybody. And I would just encourage you guys to journal, to just think about it and just ask, what is enslaving you? What do you love to do that you can't, that you don't think you can? Then we kind of go from there, as Eva's now teaching kayaking and mountain climbing, which is craziness and amazing on so many fronts. Well, thank you for your time today, Eva.
Thank you so much, Erin. Before you go, I want you to tell me a bit about when your first retreat is happening.
Yeah, so this next year we have 3, and I'm hoping we do 3 every year. It'll be we have one in March, we have one in June, and then we have one in October of next year. You can go to spiralspine.com and check all that stuff out. And my heart is just in the beginning, I was like, don't come to Spiral Spine. Just go around the world and just find someone who can help you. And the more people that come to the studio, the more, I can't tell you how many people they've walked in the studio door and they've just like cried. And I'm like, oh, okay. And the goal is just to have a place that you can go home and you can just get loved on. You can work out and you can meet people that have scoli and get analyzed and figure out where your pads go and all this stuff and learn to move. Learn to just take care of your body and do it in an environment where we're working out, we're having fun. This is not punishment. So yes, so that's scoliosis retreat, and it'll officially start because we'll have our brand new gorgeous building in just a few weeks. So we can just go to town. Everyone just start getting loved on. Y'all can come to Nashville, Tennessee, and it's good. It's good. So it'll start next year.
I'm so excited. I might try and plan a sneaky trip over. My brother lives in Michigan. So I do need to visit him at some point. So maybe I'll take a sneaky trip down to Nashville to see you and then to check out the Scoliosis retreat. I'm so excited for you. It's going to be amazing.
A sneaky trip. A sneaky trip.
A sneaky trip. Why not?
It's so good. All right. Well, until next time, Eva, enjoy your amazing kayaking, and I look forward to vicariously living through you on all of your outdoor adventures, because that sounds totally and utterly amazing.
Oh, bless you, Erin. We'll chat again in a couple of months. And I can't wait to hear about your updates and you about mine.
I love it. Sounds good. Bye, everybody.
Take care. Thank you so much, Erin.
Bye, Eva.
Take care. Bye-bye.